What's up, TFATK Army? I'm missing today's episode. I was on the road and our boy Patrick Bet David was in town. This was shot on a Thursday. I think I was in Orlando, so Brian did a Fire and Kid pod on his own with one of the greats. Patrick Bet David is my brother from a very smart mother. So enjoy this pod with Brian and our boy Patrick. Hopefully it's not too boring. Come on, Brian. Come on, Brian. I will be in Chicago December 8th and 9th. Brian is all over the place. Where's Brian Callen at? So I'm in Chicago, December 8th and 9th. Brian will be at Good Nights this week. That's November 9th and 10th and 11th. Good Nights, that's in North Carolina. Then he's in Calgary, Yuck Yucks, November 16th through the 18th. Go get your tickets to see The Big Gay Owl. Brian Callen, briancallen.com.
Yes, we did, 'cause we back at it again. It's the fighter and the kid.
This is really The Fighter and the Kid. Come on, baby.
Are we rolling?
We're rolling.
Patrick Bet David. Dude, I'm so excited.
My man.
And Schaub couldn't be here and almost literally was trying to figure out a way to fly back. I was like, he couldn't do it. He has this rain
He's in
thing.
Florida.
I've never seen him be this excited about you being on a podcast and this upset. He goes, call me when he gets here. Has he ever done that? Ever. So he knows it. He's a huge car guy. Ask him about the cars. Ask him about owning the Yankees. Ask him about, he just had 1,000 questions for you.
He's at Mr. Olympia. The question is he going to be competing? Is this going to be him posing? And
Well, he doesn't have the body for that, but he has the strength.
Yeah.
He's Bam Bam. He's a gorilla.
he's a big boy.
Yeah. But
Him-
you bodybuild. You
I used to, yeah. Back in the days, it was like, this was my dream. I was going to be a Mr. Olympia, marry a Kennedy, be a governor, going to Hollywood, and then boom.
Yeah.
Took a complete left turn.
You have become, for me and for a lot of people, this voice that what I really appreciate about the show and you is that you take on all comers. You'll interview a Marxist economist who apologizes for Stalin. You're there to learn and listen to all different sides. You push back, you're always respectful, but you are interested, it seems, in real dialogue, in having your mind changed, in having your mind expanded. But also I know where you stand politically. I know where you stand economically, philosophically, I think. We have a clear understanding of that. So you hold that line, which I appreciate because I think you and I are very aligned. But it's very refreshing to see somebody that doesn't purify their echo chamber, to see somebody that is willing to take on all comers and actually listen, even if you don't agree with them. So my question is, how did that start? You became very successful as a business guy. I mean, you write these books. I got friends who are like, dude, blah, blah, blah. They love you. You become this guru, But then you said what? You said, I want to expose myself to the ideas, the big ideas. What
Politics. So you got to realize, my mom and dad, my mom's side, they were communists. My dad's side, they're imperialists. So the biggest debate I've seen in my life
opposites attract, baby.
Hillary Clinton and Trump. The biggest debate I ever saw in my life was the first 10 years of my mom and dad. It was Gabriel versus Diana.
Wow.
Every night, it's an argument over, rich people are greedy and poor people are lazy. That's the argument. My dad's side would say, the reason why poor people are poor is because they're lazy. And my mom would say, the rich people are rich because they're greedy. And we had this one uncle.
That's a fundamental divide.
It is.
It's a very interesting divide.
It is. So I'm in the middle saying, yeah, you're right. Rich people are greedy. And yeah, you're right. They are lazy. But man, I'm confused. Which route do I go? And then later on, you go through experiencing it for yourself, and you kind of trying to see, is mom right, is dad right, and what's going on here? And parents don't realize, sometimes you say something, and then you and I are busy, and we'll just kind of walk away. And we forget to come back and follow. I remember one time a guy who was teaching me about being a sales leader says, listen, let's say you had a big month, and you made $50K in a month. One of your sales guys made $3,000 in a month. He's having a bad month. And you're on a call with him, and you're giving him a hard time because maybe he's not running appointments, he's not working hard, he's not doing his thing. He says, you get off the phone, you made $50K that month. He gets off the phone, he made $3,000 that month. He's down, he doesn't feel good about himself. He says, make sure that call ends with you lifting him up. Don't go to sleep. Do not allow that guy to go to sleep without you lifting him up. So
you're making good employees.
Yeah, so let's just say you and I had a call, and you chewed my ass out. You're like, dude, what was this all about? You didn't. And I'm going, All right, man. Yeah, you're right. And then I get off the phone. And I'm thinking about our conversation all night. But he's saying, you call me and say, listen, as tough as I'm on you, I believe in you, right? But sometimes as parents, we don't do that. Our parents didn't do that. So it's like they say something, 22 years, you believe it. Well, maybe that's right. So
Yeah, you get defined, don't you?
at 33 years old, I pulled my mom aside one day. I'm like, can I ask you a question? What was your problem with Luther? What was your problem with this guy? This guy was the decamillion of our family. Like he lived in a 7,200 square foot house in Upland by San Antonio. If you know the drive, San Antonio, right next to Snoop. I would go to his house. You'd walk in, office over here with a library, bedroom all the way down with a jacuzzi, living room. You walk to your left, and then there was a big kitchen with island. He would always stand in the middle and make breakfast for all of us. I'd sit there as a kid, watch.
Dude, I
everybody.
love how you know.
Yeah,
because you put that map in
dude,
your.
you
That's
don't
the house
even
I'm getting.
know, bro.
That was your goal. You went.
That's exactly
bro.
what it
You
was.
got that palace in your head, and you were like, "I'm going to fill that out."
But I tell you, we went there once a year, and I wouldn't say a single word, but I watched everything
Goals.
he ever did.
Goals, bro.
right? Then I go to the left. He had a pool table with a picture of his family, with all dressed in white. And this guy was a conservative, but he had a picture of Al Gore and him on the wall next to the fax machine. And then on this side, he had one of those big box TVs, the 70-inch, but it's like 10,000 pounds. And we'd watch Jordan play on Sundays if we're there, NBC time. And then you walk outside, swimming pool, basketball court, tennis court. He had a bird's nest on this side. And I would watch him. And he was like this. 10 of his kids are sitting outside. They're big Christians. He says, you know what? I had a thought this week. I don't believe Jesus is real. What do you think? And then they would start debating for 2 hours.
Damn.
He would always poke all his kids. Constantly, he would poke to spark debate. Constantly.
Wow.
And I'm watching this guy. I'm just taking notes. I'm like, okay, you know, my dad works at a 99-cent store. My mom ran out of money, went back to Iran. But I'm going to lock onto this guy. Can I one day have this guy's life? Okay. So I aspire to be Luther Al-Khossi. He died a few years ago. And it's pretty
He was
wild.
a Syrian?
I got to tell you the story when this guy died, bro. So anyways, later on at 33, I'm having this meeting with my mom. I said, Mom, what was your problem with this guy? What did he do? Why did we not like this guy? He says, you know what? I'll tell you now. He says, because when he made his first money, we never saw him again. I said, Mom, the guy is busy. He says, you know what? You're probably right. But at that time, you don't know. You're thinking he thinks he's better than everybody else and we don't see him anymore, right?
Of course.
So we're at Rafi's place 4 years ago, 6 months before he dies, and his daughter, Jackie, sees me and he says, hey, you know, my dad's here. I said, dude, I'd love to see your dad. So I walk over to his dad, her dad. He stands up. I said, can I tell you something? He says, yes. I said, you probably saw me as that 12, 13, 14, 15 year. Every year I came to your house once a year and I watch you like a hawk. And for 10 minutes, I recited every single detail about what he would do. He starts crying. He's 90 years old at this time, bro. Wow. I say to him, I said, Uncle Luther, you have to realize this. You changed my life. I said, you're the only thing I could lock onto to say, this is possible. He's a Syrian from Iran. If I work like him, one day I can have that life. I'm not even your kid or even related to you, but you changed my life.
He did it with example.
He did it with example. So for me, you know, this whole concept of sitting down talking politics, this has been an interest of mine for a long time. So when I made the transition, our content's always been business, entrepreneurship, all this stuff. For the first 7 years, it was all niche. That's all I talked about. And then it was interviewing mobsters. Sammy came over here. You did a great job with them. And then it was mobsters. Then it was, you know, China, bodybuilding, all these niches I would get into, John F. Kennedy assassination. And then I can't help myself with politics. So we're at 3 million subscribers on Valuetainment. I said, you know what? I want to talk politics, but I haven't sold the company yet. And it's risky if I do because I'm running an insurance company at the time with 25,000 insurance agents and 60% are Democrats and 40% are Republican. 54% are Hispanic. And so you're dealing with this African-American Hispanic community. They know
politics,
me,
whether you know
but
it or
I'm
not.
dealing with politics. So I'm like, listen, guys, here's what I stand for. But I respect you, but I'm going to have the conversation. This is what your CEO stands for. And eventually we start our first podcast. First time we do the podcast on a brand spanking new channel, PBD Podcast. 57 people are watching us live. And then next thing you know, next one. Dude, we got 7 comments, bro. We're back at it again. Who's this guy that just commented? That's sick. What did he say? And then that grew. And then obviously, you know, people would say, he's making a mistake. It's the cardinal rule. You should never go from talking business to politics. Patrick's going to be dead. It's over with. Just yesterday, it crossed 5 million. Today, it crossed 5 million subscribers by Tim and MPVD podcast, like 1.5. But we're just getting warmed up.
I watched you build it.
Yeah, there is whatever you're interested in. Like I watch you, and I love having you on our podcast. When I do, and you'll go somewhere, I'm like, okay, it's obvious. This guy's dad was a former plumber. He was never involved in anything with, of course, nothing to do with intelligence.
Nothing.
Zero.
Nothing.
And
Why? Because I lived all over the world.
Of course,
What are you
that's
talking
got
about?
nothing to do with it. He's just a regular guy.
Just a regular dude.
So when I listen to him, I'm like, okay, this guy's got a lot of things he has opinions for, 3, 4, 5 deep levels. And then the audience finds you and says, I'm kind of weird like you too. And you're like, oh, you're out there too, man. There's millions of us. Yes.
You know what my father used to always say to me? He would say, never be, steep yourself in the big ideas. Understand, immerse yourself in the best that's been thought and said. So you have to have a command of the competing ideas. He said, but never, ever be an intellectual. I said, what do you mean? He said, there's always an answer. Look for the truth you can find. And the truth is a hard line a lot of times. Don't be a relativist. Don't be like, well, sometimes, yeah, they killed a bunch of people, but, in that case, historically, it's not. There's an answer. There's a right, there's a wrong, there's a good, there's an evil. He was always about that. So you can be immersed in the big ideas. But the trap is you hear a lot of people, for example, now saying, look, I'm pro-humanity, I'm anti-murder. That's nice for you, bro. But you don't come from a certain part of the world where philosophical and political commitment is everything. And if you're on the wrong side of that line, they come to your house and they kill you.
That's right.
You understand? And I think being a Syrian, being Iranian, the way you were, you don't have that choice. But I think it's fascinating that one man can be a great businessman and obviously a great father with all his kids and just be living his life. And you see him once a year, dude, and you just got a map. I mean, the way you described that house, you were a goal-oriented dude, which I always say is the most important thing. If you saw what you wanted your life to look like in Technicolor, in 4D, and here we are.
Let's take a little break from Cal and just chatting our boy Patrick's ear off. Let me give Patrick a little break and you guys a break. Mark your calendars because November 11th is going to be a big boy. Yuri versus Alex Pereira is going down this Saturday, UFC 295. You got Tom Aspinall and Pavlovich fighting for the interim heavyweight belt, really the real heavyweight belt, but only one fighter will leave with the belt. Secure your victory with unbeatable offers on DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers, strike now to get $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet $5. My boy Matt Steamroller is a big dog. You can make some bank on him. Get in on UFC 295 action with DraftKings right now. That's right, this Saturday it is going down for the crown. You got the light heavyweight championship belt on the line. You got the interim heavyweight championship belt on the line. Tom Aspinall, Pavlovich. You also got frickin' Yuri versus Alex Pereira. I can't wait for this Saturday. And you can join the boys, the official sports betting partner of the UFC. Download the app right now. Use the code FIGHTER. We're talking about DraftKings. New customers get $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet $5. That's code FIGHTER. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLING or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort KS, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario.
Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/MMA terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
Look, man, I'm just trying to help you guys make smart investments with everything going on in the world. You got the wars, the inflation, the economy right now could be the best time ever to diversify your money and savings with precious metals like gold and silver. Get your Scrooge McDuck on, man. Look how rich he ended up. I bought some precious metals myself, and I got them from the top-rated company. We're talking about Goldco. They couldn't have made it freaking easier. Gold has helped thousands of people place over $2.5 billion in gold and silver. They're a rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. They've earned over 5,000 five-star reviews. They're 7-time Inc. 5,000 winner. And that's just mentioned a few of their accomplishments. There's so much more right now. The Fighting Kid listeners and viewers, they're offering you guys up to $10,000 in bonus silver while supplies last. Go to goldcode.com/fighter to learn more. We don't talk about money a lot, all right, but this is going to help you diversify your portfolio. So go to goldcode.com/fighter today. That's goldcode.com/fighter.
Because I watched you. It was very interesting to watch you build this thing methodically. Because you would have these conversations. I get sucked in. You'd be talking to Sammy the Bull. You'd have these debates. And you'd just be sitting there listening. And it was just your face because you were literally learning. Now, my thing about Rogan, his success is basically because he says wow a lot. Because he's learning with us.
Wow.
That's what he does. He's learning with us. You know, I was doing this podcast when we were in a garage. So it's the same thing. And then I would watch you stop, and I sucked in. You go, hey guys, if you like this, hit this. Never did it, but I eventually did. Because I'm moving on. But then I eventually did. You did it 50 times. After a while, I'm like, I got to listen to the rest of this dude.
Yeah.
You
Classic.
know? And now you've become, I think, this guy who you're just. I don't know. So this was all you knew you were going to get here. This was the goal. You did the insurance thing, entrepreneur. You make your money, and now you're a guy who wants to foster debate. Now you want to get involved. You're on Rogan. I love that Rogan goes, "Did you come on here to get me to endorse Trump?"
I said not endorse Trump, but I think you not having him on the show is helping Biden. That's what the argument was about. But it's wild. While we're doing that podcast, guess who texted me? Trump was watching a podcast in his plane.
Oh my God.
We have a picture, their entire camp is up there watching the podcast from the plane. And, that was a message coming up. Of course, by the way, if they end up doing it, the podcast, it's got to be timed properly. Today may not be the time to do it. It's probably got to be more second or third quarter of next year. Post maybe RNC type of a thing, maybe September, October is the ideal time to do because it'll break it. But again, one thing about Joe's going to do what Joe's going to do. Joe's the booker.
He's going to do what
Joe's going to invite whoever he wants to invite, and that's why the world loves Joe.
Yeah. Well, he's just honest.
Yeah.
He's basically tells.
And he's multidimensional. It's very hard to find multidimensional type of people. The other day we created a scorecard, and this scorecard, I'm having a talents dinner with my guys. And these are guys that are creating content. Vinny, Adam, all these guys are at the house. And
Vinny's doing great, by the way.
Vinny's doing really good. Vinny's
by the way, one of the funniest, Vinny Ocean is one of the funniest comics on the planet.
Yeah.
People don't realize it. And they need to, because and I'm so impressed with what he's doing now.
Yeah. He's just getting warmed up. Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
But you know how much he's changed his life, his decisions, what he's doing right now? I don't know if you know what he's doing.
I called him up. I go, dude, I'm loving this new look.
Yeah.
Because he's following your lead.
Yeah. He's doing it. Like he's not breaking at all. He won't take. I mean, he's in a very good place.
It's about time.
But we're having this dinner, and we created these 4 criterias, and we gave everybody a scorecard. And I said, give me any name, and let's give you a score. Okay. So the score was based on personality. Are you likable? Okay. Content. How multidimensional are you with content? Then next was entertaining, and then there's one other part that we added to the whole thing. So the highest score, we had everybody on the list that we went through. We had like 30, 40 names. The highest score was a tie between Trump and Rogan because they're entertaining. Personalities, attractive personality, right? Content, they can go in different places. And it's a wild thing that those guys ended up being at the top. But we put a lot of other guys on the list. Some guys are very smart, but they're not entertaining. Some guys are very entertaining, but they're not very smart. Right. Their depth is low.
Right.
Some guys you don't trust him. I just don't trust this guy. You're not likable. There's something about you rubs me the wrong way. Every once in a while, you find a multi-dimensional person, and that guy's upside is not going to be how hard he's going to work. How is he going to use his talent? And that's why Joe's the GOAT.
That's 100%. What do you see as a guy who's so keyed into the zeitgeist and, business, politics? I always say guys like you I listen to guys like you because you've come into contact with reality. I mean, there's a measurable, criteria for whether or not your business is doing well or not. So, if you run a business like your insurance people, how many people were working for you?
Now,
I'm saying when your business before you sold it.
Oh, 45,000 insurance agents when we sold it.
Now,
yeah.
So, I always say, in that situation, you're looking for results. You can't be thinking about, there's no like, well, I need a quota of black people here, a quota of brown people. You need results, man. And if the guy has, if the guy comes in dressed like Tinkerbell, if he can sell, you got the job,
That's
baby.
right.
That's the
right.
bottom line. That's why I like capitalism and markets. But what do you see? And now you're interviewing everybody under the sun who's a politician. What do you see as the biggest threat to our democracy right now?
To our democracy.
Yeah. Do you worry? What keeps you up at night?
Well, right now, we are one person being offended from World War III being started. Okay? Today, that's the biggest concern today. It's changing, and it's changing really, really quickly. So there's a few things. In a household, the reason why boys need a father, because sometimes moms can't bring these two elements at a level that's needed. For example, I'm having Tom Brady at the event. We're having a conversation. And I said to Tom, Tom, I noticed the people that do something very big with their lives. Not small, but massive. Like they can't stop. Like you can't stop Musk. Musk can be a trillionaire tomorrow. He's still working the same way the next day.
Yeah.
Musk can go buy a house, the biggest house ever, and 200,000 square feet with the most crazy thing in there. He's coming to work the next day, same time. That's Musk. He's not going to stop, okay? Because Musk had something that others don't have. He had it. Brady has it. Jordan has it. Trump has it. A few people have it. You need three things, okay? Number one, you have to have experienced unconditional love when you're growing up, because you have to know that's possible. Unconditional love typically comes from a mom. You need it. It's unique. You can screw up, you can get arrested, but your mom, you're your mom.
She's there. She's on death row. She's the one.
She's the one, right? That's right. That's the mom element of love. Sometimes it's not mom for everybody. Sometimes it's that. But for the most part, it's mom. Number two, you need to have someone in your life that you loved so much that betrayed you. You need that. You need one person in your life that you would have taken a bullet for, that absolutely betrayed you and broke your heart, almost destroyed you. And no matter what you do, you can never win this person over. Nothing. You can make all the money in the world. You will never convert them. You can have the best six-pack, biggest muscle, win a UFC championship. You will never win this person over. And it's a never. It's not, I finally won him over. You will never win him over. So one, unconditional love. Two is the element of somebody destroyed your heart. And no matter how much you win, they're never gonna be on your side. And last but not least is the reason why I wrote this book. Choosing your enemies wisely. Most people choose the wrong enemy. Most people have no clue what they're doing to themselves. They're absolutely choosing the wrong enemy in their lives. You choose the wrong enemy, all of a sudden you could waste 20 years of your life, 30 years of your life, right? Okay, so for example, if we go to choosing your enemies wisely, let's choose the wrong enemy. Feminist movement, who's the enemy? Men. Men are the enemy? Yes. I'm holding a Vault conference 2 years ago. And on first day, we do a personal identity audit. List of questions you got to go through. It's the homework. The next morning, we talk about it. So you got to go by yourself that night and go through these questions. We've got a couple thousand people in attendance from 40 plus countries. Next day, I'm on stage and I'm saying, who wants to tell us what big breakthrough you have? One guy says this. One husband and wife say this. Then one girl is sitting over here with her sister, and her sister saying, raise your hand, raise your hand, raise your hand. Finally, she says, I have to do it. I said, what's that? She says, I'm 39, 40 years old, about to turn 40 in a month. She says, I make more money than any one of my cousins, siblings. I'm the one. Every boy that I wanted to beat, I beat. I made more money than them. I drive a nice car. I live in a beautiful house. I go to whatever restaurant I want. I have all the Chanel purses.
And I'm miserable.
And I'm lonely.
Yeah.
And I'm lonely. She says, she's crying telling the story. She says, last night, I realized men are not the enemy. Now, we've seen this in many movies before, right? Yeah. When there's he's not the enemy, like the whole thing with Jerry Maguire, where the girl is sitting around with all these other guys. I don't care. I love him, right? I don't care. All the divorced couples are bitching about their husbands and men and all this stuff, and then Jerry walks in. So it's not like it's a new story, but she had a breakthrough. Feminism, one of the worst enemies ever, example was
for
that.
Women.
For women.
It just hasn't panned out.
This concept of choosing your enemies wisely, it applies to countries, it applies to wars, it applies to politics, it applies to faith, it applies to business, it applies to podcasts,
too.
It applies to yourself.
Because a lot of times you think that you're going to protect yourself and all your attention is going over here.
Yeah.
When the enemy's over here.
Yeah.
It's everything. It's such a great subject because But you have business planning for the audacious few. It has a business.
Can I read something out of that
Yes,
for you? So
please.
check this out. Watch
Yeah.
this. Okay.
Because I want to get back also to.
No,
you
I'm
need
going
somebody
to
who's
that.
going to break your heart.
Watch this here. Check this out. I'm going to read 2 quotes for you. Number 1, okay? A wise man gets more use from his enemies than a fool from his friends. Baltazar Gracian. Now let me read the other one. Check this out. This one will give you chills all over your body. You have no enemies, you say. My friend, the boast is poor. He who has mingled in the fray of duty that the brave endure must have made foes. If you have none, small is the work you have done. You've hit no traitor on the hip. You've dashed no cup from the perjured lip. You've never turned the wrong to right. You've been a coward in the fight. Charles McKay. I'm sitting with Dana yesterday.
Wow.
And I said, Dana, I got a book coming out, Choose Your Enemies Wise. It's a business planning book. We're finishing our meeting. And he says, what's the title of the book? I said, Choose Your Enemies Wise. He says, look at that right behind me. And if you've been to his office, you know what pictures on the wall. It's like that the Asian.
That Yakuza thing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, no, look at the wall. I said, Dana, I don't know what I'm looking at. I said, I'm telling you, look over here. So I have to stand up. And I come around and I look at the wall. And on his wall, he has this picture that I had to take a picture with him. He says, may God have mercy upon my enemies because I won't. And he says, you know who said that, right? I said, who? I said, is it a general? Is it a military? He says, it's a general. I said, is it the such and such? Finally, it was General Patton. May God have mercy upon my enemies because I won't. Even a Dana White, the famous quote, that video when he says, fucking bet against me. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He says, bet against me. Tell me it's not going to happen. Tell me it's going to fail. I love it. I love every minute of it, right? Here's a guy that chose his enemies wisely.
I love him.
So you talk, this book, by the way, this is for anybody in business. It doesn't matter what you are.
I'm reading it.
It's a formula. There's 12 building blocks. If you're going into 2024 and you want 2024 to be the beginning of the greatest years of your, maybe you want to have a breakthrough. Most people write a logical business plan. It's boring. But this applies to podcasters, to businessmen, politics, military, whatever it may be. Comes out December 5th. Choose your enemies wisely. But going back to the question you asked about what keeps me up at night. Israel, Palestine. Okay. We're on this side. I can't believe you're pro-Israel. I cannot believe you just question Netanyahu. I cannot believe you have the audacity to say, why isn't Egypt taking the refugees from Gaza? How could you say such a thing? The reason why they're not taking the refugees more than 800 a day, because Egypt knows that if people leave Gaza, there will no longer be a Palestine. How dare you not say things about Hamas? Have you not read their charter that their whole goal is about eliminating Jews? Have you not seen what they've done to the kids?
Win.
So here's the point, though. That's okay, but I'm not trying to win. I'm not in the game of making friends with the audience for them to sit there and say, did you guys like today's episode? Did you like today's episode? My idea is, listen, if you like me today, you're going to be upset with me next week. But if you hate me today, be patient. You're going to love me next week because I want to have the conversations.
Amen.
So the part that we have today, we need someone that knows how to lower the temperature. Remember the example I gave about mother can't do certain things that a father can't? A father knows how to bring 2 elements to a boy's life. Fear and respect. A boy needs to fear a man and respect a man, but he also needs love. If a father's also loved and he knows how to bring love, you got the trifecta. You're like a Justin Timberlake. You can dance, you can act, and you can, sing. So a trifecta of a father imposes fear once a quarter, earns respect from his kids, and loves on them. If you can do that as a father, you have the highest potential of raising good kids. Most fathers only impose fear, and there's no respect and love. Some fathers are pansies. They only impose love, no fear and respect, but you need all 3. America today, our president doesn't impose fear, doesn't impose respect, and is not earning love from anybody. Nobody. Andrew Schultz said it best. He says, the way I judge a president is by the merch they sell. Biden ain't moving merch. Trump is moving merch. A form of moving merch is what? You're admired, you're loved. What merch are people buying from? Have you ever seen anybody wear a Joe Biden hat?
No,
have you ever seen
He's a charisma vacuum. And I also think that Biden just doesn't stand for anything. He seems to have been hijacked by the far left. And I don't even know. There's no. I have my issues with Trump as a person. I think he tends to be. He's a Trumpist. He's about himself in a lot of ways. But at least there was a coherent economic and foreign policy that I could follow. That was something that I could make sense of. When you've got the left is a snake eating its own tail. I don't even know what they're talking about half the time. You've got them standing up for the minority, but then at the same time they hate. And at this point, they're surrounding Jews, in Harvard when they're just trying to walk across the quad. I don't even know how to make this gender ideology. I guess a woman is just an inner feeling. So suddenly I'm a woman now, and you have to call me a woman. And if you don't, you're going to get censored. I mean, what are we talking about here? None of this makes sense. Biological males and female sports. What are you talking about? So we can go on and on, but what I think is very important is, to your point, is being clear and concise and speaking the truth. Like, we know what 2 + 2 is. It's 4. What I said about the Hamas thing. Look, man, you want to have the conversation about Israel Palestine? Man, that's no problem. There are two sides to every story. That's a complicated issue. You're going to get into the weeds with that, and nothing I say is going to change your mind. That's a biblical, emotional issue as much as it is a logical issue. But when you come over a border and you kill entire families in their pajamas on a Saturday morning, there's a button called the Stop Everything button. All of us have to go, hold on. And you took kids, you took hostages, children, entire families. I got to hit that button. We got to stop everything, because there are some things that are beyond the pale. There are some things. You're a serial killer. You killed a bunch of people, and you come in and go, my mother was so mean to me. And you might tell me a heartbreaking story about your mother. You got to go, bro. You still killed 10 people. You understand? There are lines. There are lines we have to defend. There are lines that we have to stand by. If you don't have lines you're willing to defend, if you don't have lines you're willing to defend and fight for, then who the fuck are you? If I don't know what you want, if I don't know what you honestly revere and what you are willing to stand up for, regardless of the cost, then you're probably not a fully realized human being, and you're certainly not a fully realized country, and you certainly don't have a fully realized philosophy. That's what I believe. And I think you're probably in the same camp.
Let's take a little break because the holidays are coming. The weather's getting a little freaking cold out there. Cozy up in style this fall with the unmatched comfort of MeUndies. MeUndies has the softest, most breathable underwear and loungewear that you can experience. Whether you're on the grind during the work week or posted up on the couch with your girl, MeUndies is there to keep you comfy. All right, from all black classics to fun seasonal prints, modern, they got cool shapes. MeUndies has a wide range of cuts that'll fit your body. All right, they get the versatile loungewear. MeUndies isn't just about underoos. Explore the loungewear collection featuring cozy joggers, hoodies, onesies, and so much more. The comfort is unmatched. All right, it's breathable. It's micro-modal fabric, so it's so soft on your 3-piece set. All right. If you're not happy with your first pair of undies, it's on MeUndies. That's right. They're so confident you're going to love them. It's a problem-free philosophy. That's from The Lion King. It's our philosophy. Anyways, all you got to do is get 25% off your first order plus free shipping. Go to MeUndies.com/TFATK. That's MeUndies.com/TFATK for 25% off plus free shipping. MeUndies, comfort from the outside in.
Yeah, for me, so if I talk to somebody who is Jewish, okay, you have to be able to reason and realize there's a high likelihood this person's going to defend whatever Netanyahu's doing.
Sure.
80% chance. Okay, fine.
But having said that, half of Israel was against Netanyahu. Half of Israel was not for the illegal settlements.
Get it. But if I'm talking to somebody who's Jewish, I get what position you're going to take. Good. I'm playing the odds game.
Yeah.
If I'm talking to somebody that's Muslim, I understand what position they're going to take, and they're going to see Hezbollah as freedom fighters. I lived in Iran. They were not seen as freedom fighters, okay? People were scared of Hezbollah. You don't see people being frightened of what our military does in the U.S. You don't see people marching in the streets mad about America or mad about other. No one in the military ever. The other day, someone's talking about saying, I can't believe you support this. You support this. I said, brother, I've had the luxury of living in Iran for 10 years and seeing people marching down the street, flagellating their backs with a trail of blood, screaming mad about America. And I've had the privilege of living in a refugee camp.
By the way,
being in the U.S. Army, death upon America.
Death upon America.
Yeah. And I lived in U.S. and I was in the U.S. Army at the 101st Airborne. I've never, ever seen us marching, saying death upon China, death upon Iran, death upon Russia. We've never taken that position. But reason, logic. Okay, this book called Power versus Force. If you've never read it, it's a phenomenal book to read. It talks about levels of consciousness. If you pull a Power versus Force chart, if you do that and the audience can see the chart, it'll show you from the lowest level to the highest level, okay? on the lowest level, you'll see apathy, grief. Like if you pull up the square one, the one to the right there, yeah. If you pull up that one, look at the lowest level, right? You'll see right there, shame, okay? Guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride. All of those are bad things. That's all fours. You gain power when you have the courage to speak to somebody you disagree with. And then you're able to stay neutral to the best of your abilities. You're willing to talk. You're accepting the differences. You're able to reason. You're able to love people. And then you have joy, peace, and enlightenment, which is very difficult to get to. But the point is, when you do sit with somebody that disagrees with you, you have to say, he's supposed to. I totally get it. I get it. It's totally fine. We can have this conversation, right? I understand what position you're taking. But at the same time, you know, for me, living in America with 4 kids, it's going to be America first, regardless. The policies have to be America first. It's not any other thing before America.
I always say this, people who live in other countries, when they come to this country, they're more patriotic than any American.
And guess what? It should be. If you're part of Hamas, you're going to believe Hamas first. If you're Palestinian, it's Palestinian first. If you live in Gaza, it's Gaza first. If you're Israel, Israel first. If you're China, I totally understand that part. You're going up against your opponent, you're like, well, you know, the guy that's playing for the Knicks, I'm with the Lakers. Yeah, we're best friends, bro. We went to high school together. No, he's Knicks first, then you. He wants to win the championship. Then you guys can be buddies having dinner afterwards when he gets the ring, and now you.
That's right.
That level is very honest, and it's straight up. You know, when we're talking about Trump, how he's selfish and all this other stuff, if there's anything, any show I highly recommend anybody who doesn't know a lot of politics and they just kind of want to learn, I say go watch Phil Donahue and Milton Friedman. I don't know what year it is, 1974 or 1980, some number like that.
It's great.
Okay, yellow. I think he's wearing a yellow tie or yellow shirt. And then Phil Donahue says, what do you say about all these selfish people and greed? He says, oh, it's always the other guy that's greedy. Yeah. You're definitely not greedy, right? Only I'm selfish. Right, as if we're not selfish. He makes fun of Phil. Phil doesn't have anything to say. And the point being, everybody naturally is selfish. By the way, we ran a chart, okay, in the book. There's a chart that explains the selfless chart. I don't know if you've seen this.
There's a book by Ayn Rand called The Virtue of Selfishness.
That's right. Green book.
I recommend it to people. Yeah.
So there's this chart that says the net positive index. So we ran this chart, and we had a group of people that we were doing focus group with to see what's going to come up with this. We said, who's a net positive to society? Is a person that's 100% selfless, 0% selfish, a net positive to society, or a person that's 100% selfish, 0% selfless, who's more of a net positive? You know what it was?
The 100% selfish.
100% selfish. Because at least he's going to be clean. He's not going to smell. He's going to take care of his stuff. He's going to have his... Now, is he going to backstab you? Sure.
He might also create an industry and hire, I don't know, 100,000 people.
Absolutely. But you know what the number was? 50-50 people are good consiglieres. They're good to bounce ideas off of. They're good board members, right? But a good mixture of somebody you can tolerate working for, but he's still going to kick your ass and drive you, and he's always got something he's pursuing, it's a 70-30 mark. It's okay to be 70% selfish and 30% selfless. That's the right combination, 65-35, 70-30 that we found. So when we work with people, we kind of will say, what's this guy here? Oh, he's a 60-40 guy. That guy's an 80-20. Okay, we know where to put him. That's a 90-10 guy. Shit, that guy's 110. I know what I'm dealing when I'm negotiating with this guy. That guy's 20-80. I wish you had bigger dreams, and I wish you wanted to do something more, because the world would benefit if you had bigger aspirations. So I don't have a problem with somebody who is selfish as long as they're 30% selfless.
Well, I got to say, I want to just tell people, when I did your podcast and you had to leave town, and this touched me. Adam Soskin says, he hit me up and he says, hey, listen, Patrick just wanted you to know, Patrick wanted you to know that if you want to use his boat, you want to go out on his boat and go to his house, he's not there, but we can take the boat out. And I was like, this dude doesn't need anything from me. And he's offering, he's just out of the kind of his heart. He's not even in town going, if you want to take the boat out. I went, this dude is such a fucking
We like your company, bro.
I appreciate it.
I met you 15 years ago at Cavalia when I tell the story.
Dude,
You're sitting down watching this guy. I'm like, oh my God, charisma, charm, talking to everybody. And I knew you because he's like, what the you crazy, you motherfucker.
Don't remember me. What the fuck? I was playing a Lebanese guy, my friend. Let me go back for a second, because you said something I've never heard anybody say. Now, when you're my age and you hear something you've never heard before, you stop shit, okay? I've heard it all.
You love that betrayed you?
Dude, you just said you need somebody who loves you. Got it. Then you need somebody who breaks your heart. And I couldn't agree more, but I never thought of it this way. I need you to expand on this because I've never heard anybody say this. And I think you could make the case that if you understand how to navigate life, anything bad that happens to you, if you navigate it properly, if you understand that it's a chance to grow, anything bad that happens to you is good. And most of the good things that happen to you, especially the ones that are given to you, whether it's just being born into a nice family and stuff, those can be handicaps. They can be as much a handicap as they are a benefit. Talk to me about this. Where the fuck did you come up with this?
Well,
It makes so much sense. Is that in the book?
Of course it is. Yeah, it's part of. When you're in the sales business for 20 years, I'm always sizing people up to see who I should put my time into. We talk about the concept of 90-10. If I find the right guy, I'm better off putting 90% of my time into one person, 10% into 10 other people combined, than 10.
Well, that's Pareto's principle, right?
That's Pareto. 80-20, but I go even more, 90-10.
Usually that's what it is.
So if we go to 90-10 and you lock onto someone, now here's a mistake. What's the risk? If you lock onto the wrong guy, you're screwed. Absolutely screwed. By the way, the NFL, NBA, UFC, NHL, MLB, every one of these leagues has to have somebody they lock onto. The NBA locked onto LeBron James. The NBA locked onto Kobe Bryant, improved the game, went to China. The NBA locked onto Michael, locked onto Magic and Larry. This is a concept of now NBA has to find the next person who to lock onto. It's not Zion. Is it Giannis? Who will it be? Is it Luka? Who do you lock onto? UFC, same thing. Who do you have to lock onto? You have to find the next guy that's a showman. Is it O'Malley? Is it this? Like even the other day when you're watching Ngannou and the Fury fight, I'm like, there is no way. The last 2 rounds, you saw Fury's back in. He's not even fighting. He's holding him. He's like, dude, somebody probably whispered to him, don't do anything. Don't get in there. We're going to give it to you 46, 45, 44, whatever the scorecard was at the end, because we want the other fight, the guy that's sitting over there. We can't have this guy win because if this guy wins, we're going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars. Bob Arum's and all this thing. Like, this is why people don't like this product, right? On what's happened to it. But the point with this whole concept of needing that, the 90-10, then you have to size people up. Okay, and you got to be like, let me poke this guy a little bit, test him. Ooh, okay, that drives him. Got it. So tell me what drives you. Tell me about your mom and dad. Tell me about your upbringing. Tell me about, who were you in high school? Who are you closer to, mom and dad? Big siblings? Are you youngest, middle, oldest? How competitive was your family? What drove you? What's your biggest disappointment? What's your biggest victory? Who challenged you the most? Who was tough on you? Who drove you? And then by the time you're talking to this person 30 minutes later, you'll notice if you're paying close attention, like, boom, that's the trigger. Got it. But then you'll talk to somebody like, yeah, I don't really know. It's all loopy answers. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Words like that. I'm not wasting my time with you. You're all loopy and soft and your eyes are like, there's no fire in your eyes.
Loopy and soft.
So I talked to a guy, then all of a sudden, 20 minutes into it, you're like, bingo. Last time we're doing a podcast with Bradley. We did 2 hours of podcast last night in Vegas, and then when we get on the flight to come to
Bradley who?
Bradley from Vegas. He's got his own show.
Right.
So I'm talking to him, same thing. We start talking. Good guy, nice guy, talented guy, multi-millionaire, does very well for himself, got a great life. But his eyes are good life. His eyes don't have fire in it. By the time we were done, all night, all morning.
He's hungry?
Oh, I can't even tell you what happened to him afterwards. We're walking away because I told him, I said, you haven't found your enemy yet. This whole concept about, it's not healthy, all this stuff. I'm not talking to you. Listen, I'm either your cup of tea or I'm not. If I'm not, tune off.
Yeah.
You tune out and go watch something else.
You're saying you need an enemy.
You have to have it.
Because the enemy keeps you hungry, keeps you crouched and ready, right?
And by the way, typically the person that drives you the most, you can never reveal it to the world. You can never tell the world. It's your secret. It's nobody else's. It's not public. You never tell anybody, not your wife, nobody. And it's typically going to be one that's sacred to you. And
I'll tell you a story.
Go for it.
Todd Phillips, director of The Hangover, writer-director of Hangover, Bad Santa. It just goes on and on. Hangover 2. I mean, he's done a couple movies, old school. Just The Joker. You're talking about a genius.
Legend.
And known him now 25 years. And when I remember The Hangover, I was on set, and I looked at him, I go, how much are you making for this? Because we're close. He looks at me and goes, you're making more than I am right now. I was making for the scene, I don't know, $2,000, I don't know what I was making. It was for a day. I go, what? What? He goes, yeah. He bet on himself. He wrote The Hangover. Why did he write The Hangover? I call him up after it becomes this crazy crazy success, like just kept making money. It was he said, I'll take no money. I'm going to hire all these unknowns in this movie. Let me own a piece of this. There are 3 people that own that movie. He was one of them. Okay. He did pretty well. I call him, I say, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I'm going to tell you the story. I say, what drives you, dude? What drives you? How do you do this? He goes, revenge. Fuck these bitches. And what drove him was that he was trying to do old school too, but everybody was too busy. Everybody in Hollywood was like, nah, we got this. Yeah, you had this movie that didn't do very well called, it was with Billy Bob Thornton. It did. Nah, thanks, man. Yeah, what have you done for us lately? He went, oh, really? Oh, that's how you want to play this?
Drops Hangover after old school.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, let me write this shit down.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what he did. And he just went, you guys don't want to do that? You don't want to play?
That.
How about I write a movie that changes the landscape? And how about I hire a bunch of unknowns? Zach Galifianakis. He called me up. He asked me about Zach. I go, I think he's the funniest guy in the world. He goes, yeah, his eyes crack me up. Nobody knew Zach. Nobody knew Bradley Cooper. Bradley was doing TV. When we were doing Hangover, Bradley was taking pictures of me with tourists because they wanted a guy from Mad TV, etc. They didn't know who he was. He hired everybody who was an unknown. Bet on himself. Revenge. His enemy. He had enemy. He had a very clear idea of who the enemy was. And so as you're telling me this story, it's very interesting to me. But you say, don't reveal it to anybody.
You could.
So usually you have
there's
a contract.
levels to enemies.
Yeah.
There's 14 types of enemies. So go ahead, make your point. I want to see what your question was going to be.
It's just, usually what happens in life is you have a contract with life. Most of us go through, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to do the right thing, and God's going to provide me with all the goodies. It's how it is, right? That's why the book of Job is really about that. The book of Job is like, you've been so good. You're such a good guy. How come God's not rewarding you? Basically, the thing about that is, hey, this ain't about, God's not a genie it's not a lantern I rub. He's not a vending machine. If I put in money, I'll get good stuff out. Sometimes you can put it all in and think, but you keep your faith, you keep moving, and you use whatever happens to you. It doesn't bow your head. You just keep moving through the hurricane, and you'll come out the other end, right? So what I'm saying is, I guess what I'm saying is that there is that idea of you go through life, you have a contract with life, but that contract always gets ripped up. It gets mocked. It's like, dude, I did everything right, and my dreams didn't come true. Hey, dude, it's not over yet. This is the biggest lesson of your life. Now you can either become a better person. I always say your best self, your best version of yourself is clearing his throat in the other room. And you should always be hearing it. Every time you're fucking up, he's going, hey, over here. We all have that if you're paying attention. So, but again, is that what you're talking about, where the contract gets ripped up?
2 books, First Rate Madness and Hypomanic Edge.
Never heard of them.
And
First Rate Madness.
First Rate Madness. And by the way, pull up the book cover, First Rate Madness. Look what the cover looks like. And look whose faces it is. Look who the faces of this book are. Right there. Okay, yeah, that's the one. Look at this. Zoom in a little bit if you could. Okay, right there. Look at that. Who are those faces?
John F. Kennedy,
okay.
Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
Right?
And
Am I
it's
right?
one other person. I think the left jaw, the right jaw is LBJ. I don't know who it is, but it's Jackson or LBJ, one of those guys.
Okay.
And it explains, this other book, Hypomanic Edge, talks about the elements of bipolar, multi-personality, hypomanic, can't go to sleep. They're nonstop. Their brain keeps going. It just keeps going, right? And then in one of the books, it talks about how Bill Clinton, what drove him was his relationship with his mom. And in one interview, he said, there's no benefit for me saying bad things about my mom. No one wins if you say bad things about your mom. There is no winning, right? But that was one of his enemies that nobody knew about.
His mom?
Yeah. Some people are, many of your enemies publicly, others can guess.
Well, Bud Crawford, who I think is the greatest boxer walking the planet, Terrence Crawford, who took Earl Spence and dismantled him. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I'm a boxing fan. He's a genius. And his mother never, ever told him really anything that positive because she had to play mother and father. And so no matter what he did, hey man, keep going. That was good.
Look at Jobs. Jobs' mom gives him up for adoption, foster.
didn't
and
know.
then somebody else picks him up. Armenian mother picks him up.
Wow.
And they raise him. His entire life is like, you gave me up to somebody else? You think Jobs would ever say that's what drove him? You don't think if we go hire the top 5 people that psychoanalyze him to realize that's what it was? No, the people that drive us at the highest level will typically won't reveal it. Maybe later on in life we'll read. I don't know. Have you read Elon Musk's recent book?
No.
Must read. Walter
Really?
Isaacson. Oh my God.
I love Walter Isaacson.
First of all, it's insane. So he talks about his relationship with the dad and what happened with him and Kimball and how they drove him and how he took it to a whole different level. No, you need people like that in your life. You need to experience
When did
that
you
kind of a pain.
identify your enemy? When did you identify
It's been
the heartbreak?
Well, relationship for sure. It happened with a girl. It happened when I got out of the army. But to me, the one that drove me the most, because a girl may only drive you for 5 to 10 years.
Right.
Some enemies' lifespan is very short. Maybe 6 months. I'm about to prove them wrong. Okay, who gives a shit? It's done. You went to the wedding, you got a 6-pack. You went to the freaking club party, you look good. Everyone's over it. You're not going to be driven again for the next 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very short stint of, you need a real enemy, a good type of enemy. Certain enemies drive you for 20 years. Those kinds are freaking phenomenal. Some of them are forever. Some people don't graduate enemies, so they stay at the same level. You gotta pick and choose what's going to get you out. For me, I'm 25 years old. I'm going to a Christmas party with my dad, and I'm there with a bunch of Assyrians. And I'm a nobody at that time. This is 20 years ago. I just turned 45 2 weeks ago. No one has a clue who I am, but I'm just like a guy making 30 grand a year, 40 grand a year. That's what I'm doing, okay? And I'm broke, 49K, just got out of a bad relationship. 3 years, we're supposed to get married, doesn't work out. I'm at this party at Glendale, and one guy who's a nobody, sweetheart of a guy, makes one sarcastic comment about my dad. Nothing disrespectful, just sarcastic. But he had that look on his face. And I saw the look on my dad's face.
He humiliated your dad, embarrassed your dad?
I mean, you listen, man, I've told this story a couple hundred times. I'm there right now.
You
bro.
still get fucking angry.
Oh, brother. Yeah, so I come back and I tell my sister and my brother-in-law to come to the house. I said, Dad, the world's going to know how incredible of a father you were. I said, I'm going to work my ass off that when you go in the streets, they're going to stop you and they're going to tell you, all your son ever talks about is how incredible father you are.
Wow.
Dude, I can't even tell you what that did to me. So for me,
Is your father still alive?
81. He was in the hospital 5 days. He's in the hospital. The guy's doing an angiogram on him. He says, Mr. B. David, I know who you are. And I love what your son says about you. He says, how do you know who I am? He says, you and your son have the same big nose. I recognize that nose from... It was the best.
By the way, Bet David is about as unique.
There's only one other guy I've seen with a nose like that. It's your son, right? But they have a laugh, and he does a surgery. He's back at home. He's good. But,
Wow, my dad's 83.
Yeah.
Still very close to him as well.
Yeah.
It's a privilege, isn't it?
It is.
It's a privilege.
It is. We're
And
part of the
did you
lucky
ever
few.
feel like you had to gain his approval? Was he hard on you? Or he was more of a gentler soul?
My dad never put a hand, never hit me one time, ever. He never disciplined me. But to him, he was the guy that, he says, never be afraid of the truth. Beat people with words and results. Okay? If you're going to say you're going to do something, do it. The basic value stuff, that he would say. And since 6 years old, I wanted to be a father. Just because I wanted to be like
Wow.
him. Yeah, he was my hero.
Yeah,
Till
you
today.
said something really interesting. You said, when you're a young man and you're successful, or even a middle-aged man and you're successful, there's a tendency because you have access to everything. So why not play the field? Why not be single? Why not have 15 women? Why not, do whatever you want and live that Snoop Dogg lifestyle, whatever it is that people have? And you said, and I couldn't agree more, but I'm an older man. It's like, why in the world wouldn't you settle down with one person and have a family? There's nothing better than that, especially because you get to watch your offspring grow. You get to inspire them, set an example. I always say that the best way to define love is that you have someone in your life whose happiness is more important than your own. I think men need that. I think that's one of the biggest driving factors, is that I don't have time to worry about myself. I got to get out of myself because I got to put food on the table. I got to set an example. And if I do go through some shit, nobody's coming. It's me.
It's a beautiful thing. Love. The beautiful thing about love is the way you love a friend will be different than the way you love your wife. Is going to be different than the way you love your sibling. Is going to be different than the way you love your kid. Is going to be different than the way you love your parents. But to experience all these dimensions of love is a very unique thing.
But how do you keep this going? Because you and I were talking before this. You said, we were just laughing about how you got to stay relevant. You got to keep this going, bro. There's no days off. Like, what have you posted lately? What are you thinking about? How are you coming up with original shit? How, who's the next guest? What's the next topic? What do you, I think a lot of this is inherent. I think a lot of this comes from your upbringing. It's how you rev, you just rev hard all the time. But you've got to have days when you just don't want to do this shit anymore. Tell me for people who have trouble when they wake up in the morning and they got all these voices in their head. What's your ritual? What do you say to yourself?
Brother, everything comes down to vision. Everything is vision. Okay?
You see it.
So most people, their vision is accomplished at 32 years old. They're married, they have kids, they have a house, they have a job paying them $80 a year, and that's it. That was the vision, okay? To some people, it's slightly bigger than that, right? And maybe they go till 40. But almost everybody, the vision they had that they were willing to work for becomes a reality, and then they stay there. Very few people have a vision that they won't disclose all of it. They'll disclose some of it. Maybe you'll know 80% of it. Maybe you'll know 90% of it. You're not going to know 100% of it because there's something that's driving them on why they're not stopping, right? Okay. So for me, I don't like what's going on in America. I feel broke. The other day, I make an offer to Tucker Carlson when he was free. This is 3 months ago, 4 months ago, whatever. I'm on Megyn Kelly's $100 million. And he chooses a retweet from Elon Musk over my $100 million. You know what he publicly said? He says, hey, nice $100 million offer, guys. PBD, value team or whatever you guys are. Elon Musk's retweet is more valuable than your $100 million. Why? Let me explain why. If he posts a show on Twitter X, and Elon doesn't retweet it, let's say he gets 1 million views. Let's say he gets 2 million views. Let's say he gets 5 million views. Let's say he gets 10 million views. But if he posts every video on Twitter that he does once a week, and Elon has agreed to retweet every one of them, what is that worth to him? What's the actually price it out? What is worth every one of your episodes that you do on a weekly basis that Elon will retweet one of them? That's 52 retweets a year to the #1 account on Twitter with 160 million followers. What does that mean to you? He posts a clip, 49 million views, 88 million views, 338 million views, 63 million views, 58 million views.
Can't compete with that.
But put a price to it. Let's put a price tag. What is 52 retweets from Elon Musk worth per year?
I mean,
put a number.
It's well over 100 million.
Of course it is.
It's well over.
Of course it is. So let me take 100 million or let me get a retweet from Elon 52 times a year. So,
right.
So that moment, I realized how broke I was. That moment, I realized I realized we have to compete. We're not there yet. We have to get clear. We have to make money. So our consulting firm right now is growing exponentially. The consulting firm will be a multi-billion-dollar consulting firm.
Your consulting firm teaches people how to sell?
No. Our consulting firm, hey, you want to raise $50 million, you want us to put a pitch deck together, come through, we'll help you put a pitch deck together. You're having a hard time finding a CFO, you don't know what questions to ask to hire the right CFO, your last two didn't work out, you want us to help you find a CFO, we'll help that. You got an issue going on with your board right now, 5 people can't agree on anything, you guys got a decision you got to make on this. Hey, can we come talk? You and your business partner have a 50% deal. He's been fooling around on the side, doesn't come to the office anymore, he says, F you, I'm not giving you the other part. I don't need to work. We never negotiated that. You need a mediator. You're trying to change your comp plan. There's so many different things that we'll consult for with these clients. But the consulting firm is going to grow. We got 3 products that right now we're marketing. We're going to get to the next one and the next one. And then you'll hear about what happens with that by davidconsulting.com. But that's that part. The talent acquisition that we're doing, and we're breeding talent internally. We have our own way of doing it that we're excited about. Product development, we just recently launched an app, Monect, a few months ago, and Monect is now in 42 countries. We've invested a lot of resources into it. And in the last 6 months, we've had 100,000 downloads of Monect. And on top of that, nearly 10,000 transactions on Monect. And here's what Monect is. 6-7 years ago, I'm talking to one of my lawyers. This lawyer I'm talking to for 7 minutes bills me for 30 minutes. I get pissed. I call him up. I said, bro, this was a 7-minute call. What's this 30-minute bill for? He says, minutes roll up. I said, not to 30 minutes. Maybe to 10 minutes, maybe 50, not 30. He said, I can't do anything. I said, what do you charge by the minute? He says, no lawyer charges by the minute. I said, what if There's a platform
So smart.
that I can pay you by the minute. Do you have a minute to connect? Let's connect. For example, how many DMs do you get? You can't get back to.
So
What
good.
if each
Anybody who's dealt with lawyers, anybody knows you will get an $80,000 bill and you'll be like, what the fuck is this?
What was that all about?
And
Yeah.
you don't know. You don't have a timer.
That's right.
You're not gonna. They're doing that. So you're just having a friendly chat.
and they're paying somebody $40 an hour to do. They're
How are
charging
the
you
kids?
$600.
You're like, what
Yeah.
the fuck is this? You know, and then
Yeah.
600. Try LA.
Yeah. So
$1,100.
So Connect, that Connect, the app, we have a product development division. You can in
So
our
I can get a lawyer off of the app.
no, you can be on Connect. Guys want to DM you, you don't respond back. You're hard to get a hold of, you're busy. On Connect, they'll DM you, but you could say, I'll respond back, but it's $100 a response. So it's $100, you respond back in text. If they want to text you and they want to respond in a video, you can charge whatever, $200, and you respond back in a video. If they want to have a 15-minute FaceTime with you, could say, I'll do 15 minutes for $1,000. Okay, and people will do that with you, and the time goes down about them. I want about another 15, and you'll be amazed what things people want to talk to you about. So we got influencers making $10, $20, $50,000 a month on Connect. So that Connect side is so many people right now are running a nonprofit consulting firm. Connect allows everybody, a YouTuber, a jiu-jitsu guy, a UFC guy, a lawyer, a private equity guy, a therapist, to start a business with consulting. Consulting right now is $1 trillion a year industry. $1 trillion a year is being spent on consulting right now. This is why the McKinsey and these companies are so powerful. But yeah, we want to, our holding company, we want to be formidable. We want to compete. We want to buy franchises. We want to build one of the most formidable media companies in the world the next 10, 20 years. So
Dude,
that's what we're excited about.
I'm so excited. And I'm just going to say, I'm not going to take too much of your time. We got to get out of here because I know you got back-to-backs. But it just feels like you're going to eventually run for office. I said it out loud. I had to make the announcement here. I just feel like in Patrick Bet David's head, there is a political speech coming and he's going to take it to the country. You see how quiet he is? That's all I'm going to say.
So
Choose your enemies wisely.
you're funny. Choose your enemies wisely.
This
You know,
is
I'm not born here. I'm not born
I know
here.
you can't be president.
No, and I'm not interested in governor at all.
You're
Zero.
not?
Zero.
All right. All right.
Zero.
You can be a kingmaker.
That's exactly what I'm going to be.
You're gonna be a
very good
kingmaker.
one, though. Very good one. I'm excited about that.
Brother, you're such a good guy. You
man.
haven't changed even a little bit since when I met you, and I've never heard anybody say a bad word about you, especially the people that work for you.
I appreciate
They
you,
love
brother.
you to death.
Thank you.
And you're a good man. And the book is Choose Your Enemies Wisely. And you hit me today with something that at 56 years old, give him a second because I look a lot younger. Well, because my face is so tight. But that I have not heard, which is you need somebody in your life who breaks your heart. And I mean, that's a forever thing. So that's incredible. So I thank you, bro.
I appreciate
You're making
you.
the world a better place.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you.
This is great, dude.
My man. Thank you.